So guys, I've already explained you on this particular project that we have been doing over the days, and I'm just going to quickly start this up. Now, whatever we have done in this particular project, we have used a service right here, and that's doing the HTTP communication and the local storage, all third-party communications that they're being done right here itself, right? Like I said. Now, what I'm also going to do right here is, I'm not sure if there's some problem, so I'll just fix it out. Maybe in the component. It doesn't recognize message somehow, the response.message. So it says it does not exist in the type right here. Maybe just hardcode this message as of now, and I'm just going to type in here. This dot message is, when everything goes wrong, right? Rather, I'm going to say, this is successfully updated, just to get rid of the issue. So this compiles all right. Now the only thing that we are interested in is the HTTP part within this particular service, because we just made a little modification to ease things up. We already have done promises in JavaScript. Just to tell you, we started with JavaScript with this discussion, and I'm not sure if all of you have had a look on this particular file, but if you go to first.js, then there is a bit of discussion that we did on promises right here. So, because most of the AJAX call, including the jQuery AJAX, it happens using promises. So I just, resorted down to this particular approach. But we're going to look at the approach that Angular recommends now, and we are going to create a service that can deal with observables than promises. Now, just to give you a glimpse of the differences between promises and observables, we've got these differences right here. This is kind of a theoretical explanation. As we go on during the training in some time, we're gonna be looking into observables and looking at the features and facilities that this has to provide. For example, with a promise, there are two conditions. Of course, it can either be resolved. That means you can do your success cases, and it can be rejected. Then you do your fail cases. But with observables, there are additional benefits. For example, one of the things that I can tell you that can really help you is you can cancel a subscription. So it's kind of an publish and subscribe model. You are subscribed to Ajax. Probably whenever the responses are received, all the subscribers are going to be called up, and in that sense I can tell you that maybe I can draw something up and let you know. But the idea is that if some of the components are not going to receive the data because the data is maybe corrupt or for some reasons is not the right data, and then you can cancel the subscription. That means the component does not hold any responsibility of making any updates because the subscription doesn't even reach. So you can on the fly cancel a subscription, and that's comes as one of the main benefits of observable. Now, having said this, of course, in a highly dynamic application where there are multiple components, that are going to update basis one or two events or more events that a user can do at the same time. So maybe there is a click happening and there is a mouse scroll event happening somewhere, and then multiple screens or multiple components have to update at the same time. In that cases, it becomes really handy to use observable. Promises would be a little tricky thing to do. So what I'm going to do for today is at least give you a glimpse of how to work with observables, and the advanced stuff on how to cancel on some kind of an event, and the other features, they're going to come up later. So I'm going to go back to my example on the promises right here, and I'm going to make a little modification here itself. So the thing that I'm going to try and do right here is to convert this particular service into an observable. But at the same time, I wanted to keep this service as well available for doing maybe a backup for you. So I'm going to just copy this right here and do a little change of the service itself. So rename this to do O service, just the extra O representing observable, and I'm going to do the same thing in the class name itself. So it's to do service, and it sounds a little funny, but this extra O, just remember, is for observable. Like, I couldn't think of anything as a better idea as of now. So how do we deal with this? Of course, so we have to have the dependency injection of this to-do service done in the component, and then we're going to use this as a service. So, of course, the first thing that has to happen is in the module itself, you're gonna put in your um, in the provider sections if you want to give this service to the entire module. But like we did in our approach, we rather restricted it to the component itself. So I'm going to go to the outer I think I just did it right here in the to-do component itself. So I'm just going to go to the to-do component and make this as to-do service. It's just that, I mean, as of now they're similar, so it's not going to be a problem. And everything has to change accordingly right here, which is to-do service. So you just remember that the previous to-do is just a backup, and then we can just use right here as well. And I'm gonna change this over here too. So the dependency injection is also going to change, and I think that's how it becomes the new service. Of course, it's going to do the same kind of thing that you would of course imagine. So I'm just going to type here localhost 4200, and it's still working on the to-do app like the previous cases only. Now, to convert this, of course, into the service, I'll need to change some methods, of course. And one of the methods that I'm going to look out to change is the fetch method, because this method, like I said, by default, if you don't really use this .to promise, it doesn't really return a promise. So let's go down to the get documentation, and you notice it just returns an observable right here. So this method, we're going to make this return an observable, right? So it says observable. That's the return type of this particular method. Now observable, of course, is missing from here, so we're going to provide an import from observable, and you notice it is by default automatically picked up observable from the RxJS API, right? And in this cases the observable must be of some type. So whatever you want to send it from here, that becomes the type. As of now, I'm just going to keep it any, right? So it can just return any type. Any is useful in at least demo cases, but I'm sure once you get a specific type, like a course type, we're going to create types and then do it according to types. Now let's just see, what happens. I mean, I'm just doing this dot service right here, and of course, for an observable, you'll just need more methods to work with. So I'm going to use one method which is of great relevance, of course, is the map method. And the map method is going to do what? It's going to, for whatever it has received right here, it's going to work on each entity, and it's going to convert this into a response.json. So just consider that the HTTP get method is going to return you an observable object, and then the map method also, it's kind of built on builder pattern where map also returns an observable back. So if you go to the map documentation, of course, now of course we need to first import this map from somewhere, and I just need to type in here import something from the RxJS, and this is where the entire observable tree is right now. So I'm going to include the map function, and then I'm just going to convert this right over here. The next possible thing that I can do right over here is to subscribe, right? Now this depends on where I want to do it, but let's just consider if I do it right here, then what happens? So I subscribe, and then I just wanted to do something right over here as well. Now to do this, I'm going to use, like I said, an import statement, and the import tells me to do import the map from the RxJS slash the operators. So it's going to be slash operators, right? So import map from the RxJS operators, right? And I just need to validate this one. So maybe I'm just doing it wrong. It's just a regular thing, but let's check on the HTTP observables, or rather Angular HTTP using observable. And then you'll find this HTTP right over here. which has the documentation completely for the HTTP services. And possibly you'll see right here that we'll just search on the map function. And yeah, I think I'm doing it all right. So, import the map from the RxJS. It's just that, I'm just, it's not the only thing that's getting exported out from the RxJS operator. So it's going to be this syntax. So include the map, import the map from this, and then the map is going to resolve right over here as you save this, and then also, do a subscribe from here. So I'm going to do a subscribe search as well. And let's work with this. So just consider, whatever this gets right here, I'm going to have another function right here, data, which I'm just going to do a console.log, possibly. So console.log, the data, right? So not sure of this error actually, because we got the this.http. Yeah, let me just try with this maybe, because I think I just made a little mistake as well, where I've not included the dot pipe call right here. So it's kind of do this and then pipe it to the next thing, which is the map function. So possibly this is what I'm missing right here, and so I'm going to lap this around into a pipe and then just close it right here. And close it just right over here. So we've got a pipe that's going to return a response.json. I don't know why this error is, but we'll see the effect. So all I'm trying to do is just get the response and return a JSON value back. And the next thing that's going to happen is a subscription right over here. So we'll see whatever the errors that we get, and it's getting compiled successfully. Just that I think there's some missing service right here. So it says to do service 34, and yeah, let's just move this out maybe. It's just ID specific errors that I perceive, but I think that's going to work for me. And so subscribe, it's getting closed, and the pipe has got closed too. Yeah, so should be working. I mean, it shows compiled successfully as well. Okay, so let's see what happens in this particular case. You remember that the fetch call happens right at the start of it. So I'm going to just inspect this and go to the console and refresh this for a while. Taking longer than usual because of the speed of my internet today, and I told you that it's not really great. So we'll go to the console, and well, nothing happens on the service lines, and we still am getting the I think the to do service component right here called up. So I'll just check, if it's the same method that's getting invoked. So I'm going to do. Oh, I think I just remembered this. So this is not where it is happening. Let's go to the component TS, and in the component TS, it's happening right here in the get to dos method. So we haven't modified the get to dos, rather we modified the fetch to dos. So I'm going to copy and paste the same functionality because we're going to need it for the places. So, or maybe just call this specific method load from the server that's going to do this, and says the fetch to dos is called from this .todo service, and we get a message saying response.json is not a function. And why is that so? So let me just try and do a console.log of the response object and save this. and I'll just load it from the server again. We get the data right here as well, which is to-do service 27, and it's kind of getting us the data as well, but we still need to fix it. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that can, of course, could have gone wrong right here is that, the return type of this particular method is, using a then statement, and so that's where, possibly it's going wrong. So I'll not do anything as of now. I mean, see, then only works with promises, not with observables. So that's the case, right? So I'll just do it right here, and you notice now I think it's going to be, well, I still get into an error. So where is the error? Let's find out. So it says to-do component line 72, and I think I'm doing it once more in the component. So fetch to-do, and yeah, that's where exactly it is. Save this. Hopefully this should be fine. So I load it from the server, and now it's just all right. So it's getting printed right over here at line 27. So if you go to line 27, it's just doing a console.log of the response. So pretty much the same thing that I'm trying to do it right here. But what I'll instead do is I'm going to just go to the to-do service, and I'm going to return this, and the subscription possibly I'm going to do it in the component. So this returns a promise, because the map function also is just going to return the promise object. It does really nothing extra to this observable being already returned right from here. So I'm going to go to the component, and then wherever applicable, I'll just use this method, which is .subscribe, because this is still an observable, so I can subscribe to this, and then I can just do a console.log of data, and you'll imagine, like, whatever I used to do right here, I'll just using the observable. So I'm just going to call it data instead of response. It's just a variable name. You can change it to response as well if you want. So this is how the fetch call is going to happen, and because now we have a very similar call in the on the other part, which is the this particular tool service. So I'm going to do the same thing here as well. So this, but I think just copy everything from here. So there is kind of a duplication that I can see right here. It should have ideally happened at just one place, but I don't know. Get to do service, we just made a little mistake possibly. I shouldn't be doing this. So to do service dot get to dos is, yeah. So this should not be changing. I mean, I just wanted to intend to change this only. My mistake. So I'll just keep this alive still as it is. And so this is still working through promises, get to dos, because this is still accessing the values from the local storage, get to dos, and so I should not be changing this. I just wanted to change the fetch part, and so on the on the to do service, this is now returning a kind of observable back, fetch to dos, and then I'm going to go down to the component wherever I'm calling fetch to do from here. And that's happening in the fetch method, and then I'm going to subscribe and make the to-dos as the part of the response. Let's see if this works. So refresh this. It's going to take some time because of the slow network, but if I load it from the server, and you notice there's nothing as of now, and let's go to the console right here. You notice it's in the component, and then I get the array right here, but it's still getting undefined right over here. So there's a little mistake that I've done right here, which is I'm not really returning the response as it is. So let's just try and return the response as it is. I just did a console.log here itself, and let's see what happens. So if I refresh, it takes a little more than usual. I'm citing this, again, because this is a slow network, nothing else. And then you notice I just get the values and in the component, and then it's getting printed as well. So the map function is essentially actually doing nothing right here. I mean, I could skip this as well, and I'm just kind of returning the response. But just then, when you need to change something in the response itself, this is a chance to do it, right? So maybe we can just console.log right here as of now. And then I'm going to type in here, return the response itself. So it's just getting printed right in the map function. Maybe I'll just write here, in the map function, and just print the response, and then returning the response from here itself. So as I do load from the server, it's in the map function. It's just the same object. If I needed to do any modifications, then I can use this map function, or I can ignore this, and then in the component I get 1 to 3, which is right over here. So let's just add a fourth one. Now the sync with the server still seem to be working with not the observable but promises, but I can of course change that. But as far as the change is concerned, just realize that the HTTP GET methods and all the methods with the HTTP service in particular, they are created with observable in mind. They always return an observable right here. So your methods should ideally be returning an observable type, like I said, and you can make it any type as of now. It doesn't really matter. And then wherever your component is going to listen to, right, it just realizes that this is returning an observable. So I need to subscribe to this event, and then I can just do the same thing. The important things to notice in this section would be the observable. You always need this, because if you don't really have this, maybe comment it right, it's not going to work for you. So if I just comment this and keep the same example from running, and I load it from the server, well, it still works, but observable is kind of directly imported from within inside. Maybe, yeah, it just doesn't transcompile, and it just use the previous version of it. But what I'm trying to say, and it's important, is that you always need to have observable imported from the RxJS library. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. And what I'll expect also to you guys to do is to do the sync part by using observables. Or maybe if this is going to get too much, I'm going to do it right here. So it's really simple. Let's see the changes that I'm going to do right now. So I'm just going to make it observable, and I'm going to give it any type. Instead of doing a .to promise, I'm not going to do anything right here. So I just return this as it is. This is automatically going to return the observable right here. And then instead of whenever I'm calling this method, which is sync to do, and let's find out the sync method right here. And you notice then it's going to fail, because we have to convert this to promises. So the next thing that you're going to do is just change the method. That's all. And then maybe you're going to get a response back right here, and then do the same things that you've been doing right here. So copy this, and I'll just paste it back here, and at the same time uncomment this. Now this would mean that get the message updated, and then it's going to just display up the message right over here itself. So maybe if you just wanted to, yeah, it's already happening by the response thing here. So no changes here. And then let's see if this works for us. So I'm going to add a third one. You notice add is always going to add into the local storage. So if I load it from the server, it's okay. So one has already happened. Let's just add a fourth. And so when I add a fourth, right, it appears here, but when I load it from the server, it just is gone, because it's not synced with the server. So I can add first, I can sync with the server, and now you notice the successful updation. And then whenever you're going to load it from the server, right, I think I just did 2 times, so it has added twice, but now it's getting loaded from the server side as well. So the 2/4 that are coming up, right? Let's just type one more time right here. So or maybe I could have just mistakenly done this. So add this. I'm sure it's not sending any post request to the server. If it is, of course, we need to change that. But seems all right. And I'll just check the add to do once, and I just added locally, which means if I just load it back again, it's gone. And I'll just refresh this. It's still not. Well, it does. That means it's getting saved onto the server. So the logic possibly must be in the add then, because the add method I think is still calling up the HTTP. It doesn't seem so, but I think it's just pushing it twice. So that's the wrong area. I'll just leave this logic area to you guys to figure it out. But I think we have got the solution that's working with observables. Like I said, there are good things that come up with observables. Remember, this is a little heavy in terms of API, so it's going to have a little performance impact. But the goodies that it has to offer will obviously play a huge role in you deciding to use observables. There must be a good reason that Angular has decided to switch on to observable from promises, and that's all that I needed to explain in this section right here for you guys. So this session is only to give you a little hands-on on observables. I'm sure you also had a chance to go through the documentation yourself. I'm going to go ahead and give you a little more insight onto observables area in possibly next session, where we're going to do a runtime cancellation of an observable and use some of more features. But as a simple example to work with to-do service, I think this should act as an observable right here. So that's it for this specific observable thing. Stay tuned, and I think there's more coming up.